Before I talk about this Hulk Hogan thing, this is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV with my daily wrestling news update. Raw scored a very low 0.78 rating for their post Wrestlemania show last night. Usually that's one of the highest rated shows of the year. Didn't even crack the ones. So Hulk Hogan has a very controversial stance, according to the New York Post, on this COVID-19 coronavirus. Of course, Hogan recently got a settlement for the $110 million lawsuit related to his leaked sex tape that also showed him using the N-word, which led to him being out of the WWE Hall of Fame for a few years. But he feels God has brought this on us as punishment. I'll tell you the quote. Hulk Hogan has stated, God said, you want to worship athletes? I will shut down the stadiums. You want to worship musicians? I will shut down the civic centers. You want to worship actors? I will shut down the theaters. You want to worship money? I will shut down the economy and collapse the stock market. You don't want to go to my church to worship me? I will make it where you can't go to church. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. Hogan then went on to say, whenever I hold back the rain or send locusts to eat up the corpses or send an epidemic on my people, if they pray to me and I repent and turn away from the evil they have been doing, then I will hear them in the heaven, forgive them for their sins, and make their lands prosperous again. So Hulk Hogan does not feel any vaccine is needed. He feels that everyone just needs to pray more. So very interesting take on a guy that didn't donate a single penny to Billy Graham's medical fund last year when he really needed it. Even Chris Jericho, Kofi Kingston, Ted Arcidi donated, and a lot of you fans out there did. And like, for instance, Billy Graham was a guy that Hulk Hogan stole the Python's word from, brother, the ear cup, the shirt rip. Billy Graham did all that. Wouldn't donate him a penny. So now he wants to go on a religious rant saying this whole virus is caused by God punishing us. All right, brother, you have done way too much cocaine in your life if you believe that that is real. Not God being real. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, but that's just crazy. According to the Wrestling Observer, the search numbers for Saturday's Wrestlemania show on the internet were considered weak, and the Sunday show Google searches were considered actually poor. So night one was weak, night two was poor. They haven't released the pay-per-view numbers yet, or if there was any extra network subscriptions, but that's going to eventually come out. The Association of Ringside Physicians has put out a statement recommending the indefinite suspension of all combat sports events. Now, wrestling is actually usually thrown in there with the combat sports, along with boxing, kickboxing, amateur wrestling, MMA, etc. So they are actually recommending that these events stop. However, WWE has somehow managed to convince the state of Florida to allow them to still do tapings at the Performance Center. So they're going to be doing more tapings there this week, from what I understand. I noticed that Dave Meltzer pointed out, I guess The announcers aren't doing the commentary live at these tapings. I haven't really watched it because it sucks, quite frankly. But for some reason, they just have them sitting in the arena when these matches are being taped, not talking most of the time. So Meltzer pointed out that that looks really weird on camera. CM Punk issued a statement about having wrestling with no audiences. He says, I'd be able to watch hockey, UFC, Bellator, any kind of MMA fight where there's no people in the crowd because it's a sport. With pro wrestling, I find it completely impossible to watch with no crowd. So I will agree with CM Punk on that. Dana White has supposedly, he's in the process of securing a private island where he is going to hold fights featuring international fighters that can't get into the U.S. He's also going to run shows on an Indian reserve in Lemoore, California, which I guess is near Fresno, on native land where the governor of California can't shut them down. So he's fine. He's going to keep working on ways to find his ways around these shutdowns. AEW has apparently 6 weeks of TV taping in the can. They shot it all last week. Supposedly, despite Big Show being like a big baby face on a new Netflix kid show, they had him return on Raw as a heel, which doesn't make much sense. So that's the main news. I'll go in a couple of your questions. Oh, by the way, a lot of people had positive feedback on my compilation video about The Undertaker. And I'm working on a new one now about the Iron Sheik. So yeah, Randy Savage says, how am I doing? I'm doing okay. By the way, I did mention yesterday I'm having an issue here because I have a small skin cancer patch that needs to be cut out, and apparently the cancer doctors are not working due to this coronavirus. So the alcohol workers are more important than the cancer doctors. It's a simple thing. They just got to cut it out and the issue will be over as long as I basically stay out of the sun. I guess I must have got too much UV rays in my life. But I mentioned my issue with this yesterday because I want it cut out. I don't want it to grow any bigger or spread. And they're telling me they can't even make me an appointment until this lockdown is over, let alone cut it out. And many people have contacted me, even people with like numerous spots on them, like facial cancers, are not having access to doctors. A guy contacted me and said his father has lung cancer and his chemotherapy treatments have been canceled. So this is weird that they're actually shutting down the cancer doctors. That's really, really weird to me. You'd think